It's January in the garden. Temperatures have fallen and a thin layer of ice and snow coats everything. It crunches under my boots as I walk and reminds me that the garden can wait. Winter is a time for quiet and rest and thinking and planning, for feeding the birds and pulling up the odd leek or parsnip. Happy New Year. I hope you've had a really good start to the year. We're now kind of inching towards the middle part of the month, and it's been very slow here, just relaxing and thinking about the garden, what I'm going to be growing and planting and sowing soon enough. There are a few things that I do want to get done today, just some gentle gardening tasks that will keep me in the rhythm of things as we head into spring, because it's not really that far off. But one of the things that I do need to get on top of is chop up or just basically shred all of these Christmas decorations. These are just evergreen branches and foliage, mainly from my Christmas workshops. And evergreen foliage makes a really good mulch. And if you have enough of it, you could actually create kind of a hot compost pile and heat up the inside of your polytunnel, or even start some seeds on the top as well, free source of heat. But I won't have that much. So what I'm going to be doing is just shredding what I have here in this bag. There's a little bit over by the polycrub as well, and then just tipping it onto the compost pile. The garden shredder that I have isn't a professional model, but it's good enough for the home gardener, and I've had it a couple of years now. Josh got it for me for my birthday, and it's come in super handy for when I've been pruning the apple tree, cutting back lavender, and have relatively woody garden waste that's still green and is too big to really put directly on the compost pile. I mean, you can do it, but it doesn't break down as quickly as if it were shredded. However, I can't put anything that is too thick or is dried out, so like the stick, through that shredder, because it will just kick back. It won't do anything other than break the machine. But I have a better use for these. I now layer them into dead hedges, which are natural fences, natural windbreaks that you can make with woody garden waste. They're super easy to make. I've got one in front of where my bees are and all around the compost bay area here. And if you have a bunch of woody garden waste that you're not sure what you're gonna do with, definitely watch my video next showing how to make a dead hedge. As far as the garden tasks that I have planned for today that I'm going to show you, they're more like gentle gardening exercises, and it's just something to keep me busy and something that you could probably do as well. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Now in January, it's the beginning part of the year, and I always take a bit of time to plan out my content and projects for the year. So YouTube videos and social media and other things I would like to get accomplished in the year. And staying organized and keeping on top of everything is a bit of a challenge, which is why I've decided to start using Notion, an online app. Notion helps you to do all of your thinking and planning and organizing in one place. Now, the only problem with that is that I don't know how to use it just yet, which is where Skillshare comes into the picture. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives, with thousands of classes led by industry experts across film, illustration, design, and more. You can learn art and illustration, photography, crafts, computer applications, business skills, creative writing, so much. That's just a very small fraction of the different skills that you can learn on Skillshare. And circling back to Notion, they have a class that's made up of 17 short videos that will show me exactly how to use it. It's essentially a quick start guide to using the program. So considering that, and considering that there are tons of other skills that you can learn, I really encourage you to get on and see if there's something that's going to help you this year. I'm sure there is. And the first 500 people to use the link in my video description will get a free 1-month trial of Skillshare. Get started today. there are very few seeds that we should be even considering sowing right now in January, at least this far north in the Northern Hemisphere. It's just too cold outside. And even if you start them indoors, they have to be planted outside sometime. And usually that's within 8 to 12 weeks. And think about what the temperatures are going to be like then. Also, risk of frost in a lot of cases. And so that's why we hold off on most things. The exceptions, though, are plants that are a little bit hardier or need a longer growing period. And so we can start them off a little bit early, under cover, so within a polytunnel, or better yet, at this time of the year, inside the house. And I have one of them, which is bulb onions and shallots. And I've got 4 varieties. These are brand new seed packets, so the seeds are really fresh. I have onion stir-on, onion walla walla, onion Isabel Rose, and a shallot called Zebrun. This year, I'll be growing these 4 different onions and shallots, plus an additional one that I have already started from sets, and they're growing already out in the greenhouse. And instead of having them all in one bed like I have done in years past, I'm going to be putting some onions here, some onions there, all around the garden in a kind of a polyculture style. And so I don't need very many of each of these seeds, which is why I'm using a 6-cell module to sow the seeds into. The potting mix that I'm using is a bagged potting mix for seedlings that I've purchased. And the reason that I've purchased it is that it's got the right amount of grit and texture in there, the right amount of nutrients, but it doesn't have any weed seeds or pathogens in it. Once the modules are filled with the potting mix, I just sprinkle the onion seeds on top. They don't go very deep at all. And then I just sprinkle a little bit of potting mix on the top. You can also put vermiculite on the top as well, but I'm just going to leave it with the potting mix this time. Aside from being the right size modules for the seeds that I want to sow, this particular seed tray fits perfectly into this tray, which goes into my heated propagator. And I'm going to take these onion seeds in, put them on that heat, and that will stimulate their germination. It speeds things up. And I've also taken the time to sow this tray with pea seeds. I've used the same potting mix, but you could use general purpose if you want. And the seeds that I've used are seeds that you could buy for growing peas, the actual plants out in the garden. But you could also use those bags of marrow fat peas that are in the supermarket. And they're really close together, these seeds. And in 2 to 3 weeks, we should have a fresh crop of pea shoots to harvest for salads and eating and enjoying as a early green. I'm not going to take you through how to use heated propagators or grow lights, which these will go under eventually, but I have a video that goes over all of that. So winter seed sowing and giving light, giving warmth, moisture, all of that. And you can watch that video next. And what I'm going to be doing next is actually taking these seed packets inside and sitting at the table and going through my seed store. The onion seeds that I've just sown are just behind me here in this heated propagator. It plugs into the wall and it is heated from the bottom. And so that encourages the seeds inside to germinate a little bit quicker. The peas that I've just sown, they're in the windowsill. They don't need extra bottom heat. They can germinate at much lower temperature, so they're fine on the windowsill. Now, I've also got lots of seeds around me. I've got the seeds I've just sown here in their packets. I've also got my seed storage bins over here. I've got this basket filled with seeds. And what I'm going to be doing is going through all of them as my first exercise in planning the garden this year. So knowing what I want to grow, what I'm actually going to grow, and choosing seeds that are within their best by date are my 3 main goals with going through my seed inventory. For example, these are all old onion seeds. There's Ailsa Craig in here. There's a lovely red type of onion as well. I didn't actually sow any red onions this year. That might be something I need to follow up on. Anyway, All of these are probably not going to germinate because they're past their best by date. Some seeds, like peas, they can germinate when they're years and years and years old, but others, like onions and like carrots, they really do need to be relatively fresh seed. With onions, 1 to 2 years old, so 1 to 2 years from the packaging date. Carrots are a little bit longer than that, but also try to keep it within a couple of years. And then after that time, there's kind of a drop-off point as far as germination. So you get very sporadic germination. And so that could be a disappointment if you, say, sowed an entire tray of old onion seeds and nothing came up. You might actually even think that you did something wrong, but it's just that certain seeds just are not viable for very long. These bins are where I store and organize my seeds, and I've introduced you to them before. They're absolutely brilliant, and you can't really see inside this one because I've got extra seed packets sitting on top. But if you look at this one here, you can see that within this plastic container, there's lots of smaller containers that are all labeled. And for example, I've got the carrots already out, so it's nice and labeled. I chose the orange one for carrots, and it's absolutely brilliant. Keeps the seeds organized, keeps them dry, and I'm able to carry this around. Super convenient. You can use other types of seed storage as well. Lots of people just use old biscuit tins like this, or even baskets. I know of a couple of people that just keep baskets and keep all of their seeds within something like this. This particular basket, my basket, is actually kind of my lazy seed storage. So if I've been sowing seeds or some have arrived, I just tuck them in here before I actually get to organizing them. So again, what I'm going to be doing is going through my seeds, each and every category, choosing the ones that I want to grow. I'm going to be considering their best by date, their viability, and I'm going to be considering whether or not I'm actually going to sow the seeds this year, because seeds sitting in storage containers are doing no good to me, no good to the garden. And we have an annual seed swap that I help to organize every year in the Isle of Man. And I'll just take my extra seeds that I know that someone else will love more than me and give them away. And we gardeners, we have this tendency to collect a lot of seeds, and it's hard to let them go, but they're not going to be doing anyone any good sitting in a bin like this. With my seeds organized, it's much easier to work out if I need to order any more before spring. I'll also put in an order for seed potatoes at the same time. Doing this exercise is a really big help in working out how to plan this year's vegetable garden. In the past, I've always planned my garden out on paper, but starting from last year, I've been using a garden planner app. Now in the kitchen, I have the newly sown pea seeds I'm growing for shoots alongside a new seed sprouter. It's a 4-tiered device that lets me sprout seeds on the lower levels and grow microgreens on top. Sprouted seeds have a lot of nutrients and freshness and are wonderful in salads and stir fries. Though I've pruned all of my apple and pear trees, it's something you could do now if you need to. Choose a dry and bright day and focus on opening up the center of the tree and removing any dead or diseased-looking wood. And of course, I'll be continuing to harvest the remaining vegetables in the garden. There's still beetroot, carrots, parsnips, kale, and a few others. Celeriac is probably my favorite winter root vegetable. It has a delicate and mild celery flavor, and you can see that relationship, celery, celeriac. And it has a very long growing period. So these I sowed the seeds for last February, and I'm digging them up now. So if you want to have celeriac to dig up next winter, you've got to think about sowing the seeds next month, February. And with all this snow on the ground, it doesn't really seem like we should be sowing seeds, but some do actually benefit from a little bit of an early start, especially growing under cover. So that's onion seeds that we sowed earlier, celeriac that we'll sow next month, eggplant. There's a few others as well, hot chilies. And to be able to have those crops, you do have to start thinking a little bit earlier on in the year. But if you're still in the wintering mode of wanting to relax and stay inside where it's warm and cozy, you are perfectly fine to do so. There's still time in spring to sow other types of vegetables and to enjoy gardening then. And sometimes it's just better to leave the garden alone, leave the soil alone, and come to it when everything starts coming back to life again. Thank you so much for joining me in the garden in January. If you've got any questions or anything, leave me a comment down below. And I'm going to be back in a couple of weeks with more information on how you can grow microgreens and sprout seeds inside, because no matter where you are in the Northern Hemisphere, no matter how much snow is outside or not, you can definitely do that type of indoor gardening, and you'll get some really delicious green vegetables out of it as well. I'll see you then. Take care. Bye for now.